Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This is a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube now. Wouldn't you love to create your own personal oasis? What is an oasis, you ask? An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find at AJO Consulting Services, LLC. AJO Consulting Services is a company that provides individuals, communities, and businesses of color with coaching and consulting services, personal and professional development, as well as social and community connection services. These services include, but are not limited to, dating, life, relationship, and business coaching, finance management, travel experience curation, wellness navigation, and much more. Are you ready to find, connect, and release? Come experience your oasis today. Visit our website to learn more at www.ajoconsultingservices.com. Follow us on Facebook at AJO Consulting and Instagram at AJO Consult. Also, email us at info@ajoconsultingservices.com. Welcome back to the Oasis podcast. Thank you for joining us again. So today I have here special guest, and y'all see her, watch it here, right? We have a home buying update for you all. So please, everyone, welcome Jenn, my sister friend, my AKA boss lady slash.
Hey.
At this point, we are business partners now. So
Yes,
everyone, welcome Jenn back to the show.
hello. Hi, Dutch lady. Hi, everyone. How you doing?
I see you. So this video, we coming in here. We have a lot of energy because this is going to be a update that actually is like an update, right? Like it's going to show some progress that we've had. Those of you who might be following us on social media, you might already know, but we're going to just jump in and be like, we finally bought our house, right? And okay,
ladies.
and if you guys have been listening to the previous episodes, if you haven't, please go ahead and do that. It's been a process, but we want to make sure we don't just start the process and then like not continue it for those of you who's been following us. And we also want to share what the whole experience was like, right? Especially that last stretch. And then overall, let's throw in some tips and tools for everybody because it is definitely something that's not easy, but it is definitely a goal worth accomplishing if that's something that you want to do. So we're going to go ahead and dive into that process and let you guys know what's been going on. All right. So I know in the other episodes, we mentioned our experiences that we had with finding the right real estate agent. I know we might have talked about finding this particular agent that we actually was able to buy the home with. But I want to start this conversation there because I think that, of course, they're a huge piece of the process, but I think people don't really understand how huge of a piece of the process that they are, right? Of course, you have to do your own prep work, but it's also important in choosing your real estate agent that you really go at it like you're interviewing someone that is going to be a huge part of your life, essentially, right? Not to do it so like, oh, well, this person is popular on social media, or, just because someone recommended the person doesn't necessarily mean they'll be a fit for you, but definitely go in there. And before you do choose them, I think it's important to think about what you actually want, right? And someone that's going to help you spend a lot of money, right? Someone that is going to be there for you in a time of where it could be frustrating. It could be, just a tough time, honestly, because we had a long road for us to find this home. And so I think when we found this particular agent, and because we've already had previous experiences, I think we went in there knowing a little bit better what to ask, and definitely also being more real, I think, in the sense of our expectations of the person, but also speaking up when we needed things. And so you can add to that if you have anything you want to add to it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's very important to have the right person as your agent. And like you said, because we already had previous experience with other agents, so we knew how to approach that one, and we dealt with it like it was a business interview, like a job interview, because you're making a big investment, and that person plays an important role in you accomplishing that goal. So you want to make sure that person understands what you're looking for, that they are knowledgeable, that they actually willing to do the work with you. So our approach was a bit different this time around. We had a fun conversation where we had a list of questions we wanted to ask them, and what's his specialty, his connections, experience, what he looks for when he goes look at properties, and what's his process when sending listing to clients, because we didn't want to be receiving a generic list of property and then we have to do most of the work to sort through which one we are interested in seeing. So definitely do your homework and make your needs and wants known, and make sure and your expectations known, and hold that person accountable. And if it's not working for you, it's not working. Move on, find a better match for you. So I think that was one of the things we learned from our previous agents, is that if it's not working, it's not working. And I think before we felt a bit, I don't want to say ashamed, but we had to, at least for me, I'm like, oh, let's give them another chance, because they started well.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's a business, it's making a commission and you're spending money. Exactly. You don't have time to waste. If that person is not proving themselves on multiple occasions, it's time to move on and make your boss moves.
At the end of the day, it's business. Now, it could be business with some personal touches, right? Of course, right. You can develop some type of friendliness, but at the end of the day, that's your money you're spending. They're not spending any money, okay? And if they're not working for you, all you're doing is putting money in their pocket, but doing all the work for them.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No. And don't feel bad about that. Just like if you had a job, I mean, I would hope you had a job you don't like, you find a way to transition to something better, right? If you're in a relationship, same thing. Like that, it's all important. If it's not feeding you in the way you need to be fed, just let it go. It's understood. Trust me. Plus, especially in that industry, they come and go. It comes and goes. And if they're not giving you what you need, don't hold on, because time is important. Time is of the essence. The more time you're wasting on not getting what you need, you're losing out on things that you might have possibly been able to capture. And you don't want to do that.
Yeah. You want to make sure your agent is respectful, and also communicates well with you. They're responsive, respectful of your time. And their job is not just to schedule viewing when you have an interest in a property. They're there to help you throughout the process, from screening properties that may meet your needs to connecting you to the right people throughout the person to the closing table, and sometimes after closing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that respect piece is huge. I know we mentioned in our previous experience that being, two single Black women who were the first time, looking for a home first time. I feel that I might have shared that. I feel like we weren't really respected. And I felt like there were some times where they talked to us in a way, they tried to give us anything and tell us that it was caviar when we was like, this is clearly shit, and that's one thing that's huge for me. And that's definitely something I was looking for this time around. And I truly, truly feel that we found it. This agent was and has always been, I think, throughout the process, very respectful. He never looked down on us, talked down on us. Even when he disagreed with us, he always found a respectful way to acknowledge what we said, but also give his perspective, but not push his perspective on us, you know? And that was really, really, really appreciated so much. And I'm so happy that, one, we took the recommendation. You know, we were kind of skeptical about the person who gave it to us, but also that we went into it with what we wanted and we stuck to it. And I think that was also what was important. There's time, we're going to talk about where there's times you need to be flexible, but there's also times that you have to stick to your guns and be like, no, like, this is what we're looking for. And we hope, and we're going to make sure that we get that. I think it's also important to add, though, that agents are human beings, right? And so they have their own lives. And this process, especially for us, was super long. And, you know, sometimes people lose a little gas, right? They lose a little fuel, you know, they might not have the same vigor, but not letting that get too bad. And I think our agent did a good job with that as well. Like, when we had our little down times where we're kind of like, we weren't really like as, you know, feisty about it. He gave us the time, you know, and then when we were ready, he came back and he picked it back up for us. And I think that's also really important, that to remember that they are humans and not think, oh, they just don't care, but they are also sometimes moving off of your energy. And so being mindful of that as well, because they also do have a ton of probably other clients that they're dealing with. You're not their only client, but it's good to feel like you are their only client, you know, but it's not always the case.
Right. I guess another piece I would like to add to the agent part, make sure that they are knowledgeable. I know I said that before, but I want to say a little bit more about that, because they play a role in throughout the entire process. So from finding you the right property, going to inspection, scheduling inspection, connecting you to different people, so they need to know what they're doing, and so that they're not wasting your time and that you're actually getting it to the closing table. So that's important.
That's a fact. That is very, very true. I'm laughing because I'm remembering that one agent when we went to an inspection and he acted like he knew what he was talking about. And then, like, I don't know if you remember, but
I know who you're talking about.
that is very important, right? Someone who, this is the key point, knows what they know, and also okay saying I don't know.
No, and will follow up.
Yes.
That's, I know we've spoken about that, about our agent, this agent, that when he didn't know, he did not just tell us anything. He said, I don't know, I'll get back to you. And every time he did, he followed up, he asked the right person and got back to us.
Yep.
And we really, I know we appreciated that.
Absolutely. And he, I think also he dealt with our strong personalities really well. Again, I feel like he's a very kind of chill kind of personality. At least that's what I got from him. And I think that did work well with us. And we got to a point of trusting him because he was consistent. You know what I mean? Like, he's very consistent. Like, again, like what Jenn said, he said he don't know something. And I respect that so much. I'd rather you just say you don't know. Don't tell me you this one thing and then we find out it's something else. Because now I'm going to start looking at you like,
yeah, you can't trust you anymore.
Yeah, right. And so he's definitely been consistent in that regard. But what I also appreciated about him is the fact that, and it's going to kind of touch on the next piece about being flexible about your wants and needs, is that he did take what we wanted into consideration, but also opened kind of our minds up to, like, maybe try this in this way, you know? Right. And, you know, and I think the way he did it was also good. Like I said, he did it, it never felt forced. It never felt like, y'all don't know what y'all doing, let me tell y'all what to do. You know, it was more like, okay, I hear what you want. I'm definitely going to look for it. There might be some difficulty in that, right? And then he'll be like, okay, maybe here's what you asked for, right? He'll still be like, here's what you asked for. And I also looked at things like this and allowed us to be like, oh, okay, that might work. So I think that's also a key piece. Again, everyone doesn't come with that skill, but if that's something that is important for you, then definitely, ask when you are interviewing your agent how they go about that, right? Like opening up your mind to different possibilities and different things that you may not have realized that you needed or wanted.
Right. I agree with you. Definitely, you need to be flexible. So you need to know your wants and your needs, your must-haves, because there are certain things that maybe you cannot compromise on. For example, if you have a big family, you need certain number of bedrooms for your family, things of that nature. But perhaps the neighborhood, you wanted to live in this or purchase in a specific neighborhood, but you may be open, keep your mind open to a neighboring zip code or whatnot. So I think that is important. In our case, the market definitely changed on us throughout our
Mhm.
process of looking for the right property. So we definitely had to be flexible with that. Not only did prices change, interest rate change, but
Mhm.
also policy in terms of the type of loan that we're applying for. That has changed. I had changed. So we definitely had to step back and be
Mhm.
realistic with what we're trying to accomplish and what can really happen right now based on what we're comfortable spending and the reality of the market. So definitely flexibility. You need to be flexible, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's also right, just like what Jen mentioned, neighborhood wise, I don't think you should be flexible in what you can afford. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah,
That's when you need to be rigid. Okay.
yeah, I agree. I
Okay.
agree.
And that's where I think sometimes when I say people, maybe your loan person or whatever might try to be like, oh, you could go a little hot. If it's not for you, say no. Like, don't do it. Because at the end of the day, that's your money out your pocket.
Mhm.
They gonna leave. They gonna be gone. Once this deal is up, they out of here. And you're gonna be the one figuring it out. So that should be rigid, but definitely, hey, I wanted to be on the south side. It's okay. You can look at stuff on the north side. Maybe you might like something. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that, be open to. You know what I mean? But yeah, bedrooms and all that. For us, we had a lot of wants and needs. Now, not I want to say needs per se, but I think we had a lot of wants. And we really did have to compromise on a lot of things, right? One, amongst each other, right? Because, I might want some things, Jen might have wanted some things, so we had to compromise, but also seeing what was out there and being just realistic about, are we really going to pass this up because it doesn't have you know, I don't know, a big front yard, or being flexible on those things, because sometimes the property may be really what you need, but on paper we're like, they don't have this, boop, we're done. And I think in this case, that almost happens with this home, because it was one of those homes that we didn't find. Our agent actually found, and he had put on the list. And I think, I think you kind of wrote it off, right? Because it was like not what you wanted, like something about it was missing or something like that, or not on paper. And then part of me was kind of like, at this point, we have been doing this, Lord. I don't know how long we've been doing this. And I was really on some like, unless there was like big, like heck knows, I was like, let's see all of them. Like, let's just go.
Yeah,
Cause
yeah, you were.
if he's finding five, the reality is we might not even be able to see three, right? And so writing off so many of them, I'm like, that's not gonna help our chances of finding something. So I said, let's just go see it. Like, what's the harm, right? We see it, cool. We don't like it, we move on. And so that's exactly what happened with this particular place. Was it, I think it was an open house, right? I think they had an open house or something like that. I can't remember. But I remember it being
I think
like
we scheduled. No, it was scheduled.
a schedule. Because there was other people there. There was like a few other people there. Remember when we came with the agents outside, there were people in there. And there was like a whole bunch of cars parked. Do you remember?
No, not with that one.
That wasn't the same
There were
house?
people there. I think it was the management company, and
And the agent.
agent for the sellers. And
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But this particular space, like, even still, we walked, we got there, we were kind of like, from the outside, it was just like, I'm not impressed. But we're like, all right, well, let's go in. We've definitely gone to places, and when we didn't like the neighborhood or outside of the house, we said we didn't want to go in. Like, we've definitely done that. So yes, we did. Okay, so like, this wasn't one of them, because now we were further along in the process. We're like, we're just here. We might as well just go. And so we went in. When we went in, though, we were kind of like, oh, like, it was a different feel once you got in the house. And I guess that's another lesson in don't judge a book by its cover. Like, go in, really investigate, really take a look, because we could have easily passed on that house, like easily from the outside, or just looking maybe down the block or whatever. We would have been like, oh, there's no parking. All right, next. And we would have just been like, no, we don't want to do it. And so I think that having open minds, being open and understanding you're not going to get everything on your list. Same thing like with a partner, you ain't gonna get everything. You know what I'm saying? You're just not gonna get it. But as long as you get the important things, okay, that's that's what matters. So you want to talk to that experience about, like,
yeah, I think for me, one of the main reasons why I would have eliminated it was the lack of, we didn't have a driveway. So I'm like, no, we need to have a driveway when we come. We don't want to have to worry about parking. But we kept an open mind when we went. But I don't recall us having any concern about the outside. The outside was well kept, and it looked like they've done some recent renovation. The sidings looked fairly new.
It was the part for me. For me, it was like, yes, the no parking, and also like, it wasn't attached to another home, but it was very close.
Close,
Like,
yes.
yeah.
That is, yeah, you were that was the concern. That is true. But the neighborhood seemed clean. It wasn't loud, and it was during the day, during the work day. It seems an area we would be okay living in.
Yeah.
And then we went inside. It was also a nice surprise. It had different things checked from our list, and we see the potential, even things that they didn't have. That we saw how we can
make it work.
Make it work. So we're like, oh, and so it had a lot of things on our list based on our main goals. From day one, once we saw it, we were interested. As soon as we saw it, we went inside. After the viewing, we were interested.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was a good thing. But again, speak about the quality work of the agent. He saw things that we didn't see, the potential in the property that we didn't see. I certainly would have like said, nope, we're not seeing that one. And we took a chance, we saw it, and it worked out.
Yep. And again, he did his work, and he's someone who he earned. Okay. He earned that commission. And another piece of it, I think sometimes people don't think about, is this doesn't have to be where the relationship ends, right? So really fostering the relationship well, because again, in the future, you might want to purchase again, right? Or you might want to, if you have rentals, you need someone to help you with that. And I think for the agent piece, them realizing that, and so putting in that work that's necessary, but also for you of being conscious and aware of how that agent is listening to you and dealing with you and going about things with you is important, because y'all might now be connected in that sense. You might be sending them business, you know what I mean? They might be looking out for you in another way. So that's also really, really important. And he definitely listened to us. He introduced us to things we wouldn't necessarily have looked at, because we changed our mind a few times about certain things. And he was like, okay, this is what you want. Here you go. But he also, I feel like he usually took it a step further. Like, you said this, but this has this and it got that, like he did those type of things, which was good, because they made us think, we came together and was like, oh, that was a good idea. Maybe we should think about it like this. And then it made us then go into another space of like, oh yeah, that'll work even better, which was also very helpful. And he was good at connecting us with, I think, other people as well. Like, I think for the inspections, I think we might have had the inspection person, but I know there was other little things that he was just like, oh, you could talk to this person. Often we had issue with like something. Remember, because our loan officer, that was a whole nother thing. He would be like, I'll have a conversation with them, right, to make sure that we were treated properly and not like treated any kind of way, which I also appreciated because he didn't have to do those things, but he wanted to make sure that we felt comfortable and we were good. And I really do appreciate him for that, for sure.
Yeah, I assume he wouldn't have any problem with us sharing his information, but highly, highly recommend him.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he does, or I guess as of now, he doesn't work in New York City.
Yeah,
But if you're looking in New Jersey, we can definitely share his information, and I think you won't be disappointed.
absolutely. Absolutely. I have no doubt. I definitely will have no issue sharing his information because he does what he needs to do and he earned that money. Okay.
Yeah,
He earned it. He really, 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 really did earn that money.
yeah, he's a blessing. We're very grateful to have met him and worked with him, and
Absolutely.
continue to work with
And continue to work with her. Exactly. Because that's another piece, I think, depending on the type of property you buy, the work don't stop once you close. You know what I
him.
mean? Like that's a whole nother, the journey just continues, and we're going to touch on that a little bit more. But before we even got to the closing table, so the agent kind of adapting your wants and needs and being open, to other things. And then it's the piece of the money, right? The funds. Because
Yeah.
I think that when we hear about home buying, a lot of it's like, oh, you have to have the down payment and you have to have your closing and then make sure your credit is good and you're good. No,
Yeah.
it is way more than that. And I think that might throw people for a loop if you're not prepared for it. Like, you need to have the down payment. Yes, you need to have the closing. Absolutely. And you need to make sure your credit is in a good space. But you should also have some extra funds because there are extra costs that come with buying a home that I don't think we really think about. At least, I mean, after you kind of been in it a little while, you probably like now, but coming into it, when if you're hit with those things, you're like, whoa, like I wasn't prepared for that. And thank goodness, I think both of our personalities were kind of like, I'm gonna save a little bit extra just in case. But if it's tight, definitely take the time to save a little bit more so that you can kind of cushion those type of expenses. And by expenses, I'm talking about for inspections,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the type of loan, depending on the state of the property, meaning like its condition, you might have to do certain things. Like you might have to do a regular inspection to make sure overall. And then sometimes, depending on the state of the property, you might have to do a little deeper dive to find out to make sure things are okay, right? If you're doing a fixer upper or something like that, like you have to kind of go a little bit deeper. And that thing is not free. Okay. It costs money. And I think depending on maybe I don't know, some states per se, but depending on certain loans, there might be ways to kind of like cushion the cost, but that's not always the case. So it's always good to have that money on hand so that you can use and be aware that you might do all that stuff and still not get the house.
I'm glad you touched on that because that's where it's important to have the extra funds because you may spend the money on the inspection, which we highly recommend you do. Do not waive
Yes,
inspection because
yes,
God forbid there is some issues with the house, then later on that
yes,
cost is gonna fall on you where you could have negotiated that prior
yep.
to closing. So yes, we've done multiple inspections on property where we did not move forward with. So definitely you need to have that extra funding. Yeah. But yes, like you were saying, it's not just about having the down payment and closing costs. I think for us, one of the biggest things was the monthly expense, the monthly mortgage, and also other expenses associated with owning a property. So you need to be realistic with yourself about your finances. How
Mhm.
much are you making? How much, what are your monthly expenses right now? And what are you comfortable spending a month in the mortgage? So
Mortgage is not the only expense when you're buying a home.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube. Rate us and leave us a review and comment on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and YouTube. Share your favorite episode and like us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, comments, want to be a guest, or any show ideas, contact us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. That's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com, or direct message us on Instagram and Facebook.